In addition, when you do these exams, where did the wipes go?
What do you get started there with?
You are going to be putting the patient's face up against the board. See, so do make sure that you properly clean your board before sticking someone's face against it. So although I trust whoever used this room last, we'll just be safe and wipe this board off.
Do you stick a napkin on it?
So yes, if the patient is still uncomfortable, you may stick a paper towel here. It'll make things slightly more difficult for you, but if that's how you can, if that's what you have to do to get the exam, then so be it. So who would like to be our first patient today? All right then. Thank you for volunteering, Jones. And are you okay putting your face against the IR? Yes. In that case,
Dry.
well, let it dry. Let me ask you to take off your mask, please. So for head work, you will need your patient to take the mask off because we are going to be using your positioning lines. So just stand like this for now so I can quickly demonstrate. So outer canthus, right here at the corner of the eye, right? EAM. This line here is called what?
The orbital
Orbital line. Going from the outside of the orbit, right, the outer canthus, to the EAM, the external auditory meatus, OML. If you go right here underneath the eye, IOML, very good. If we're going from the chin here, the tip of the chin, mental meatal line, very good. So you're going to be using these lines to position. Now, let me show you something that students do that I do not want you to do. They will come over here and be like, all right, I've got my OML. I need to adjust my OML so it's flat. All right, move your head. All right. Here's the OML. Here's the. It's not the OML, is it? Right? You need to follow the OML. So you put it here against the face, and as the head moves, the pen moves with it, right? That way you can keep track of where your OML is, and you're trying to make it so that the OML, in this case, is flat. Does that make sense? Right? So don't just have the patient here and be like, oh yeah, OML, yeah, I'm getting my OML. No, you're not getting anything like this, right? You need to measure your OML and then move the head to match. Okay. Let's see other centering points. Okay, turn to face us. Great. What do we have up here between the eyebrows? Glabella, great. What do we have here? Nasion. What do we have here right under the nose? Acanthion. Here? Mental point, good. Down here? Mandibular symphysis. Because your mandible comes together, just like your pupil symphysis. You've got a mandibular symphysis.
I thought it was the mental tuberance or something.
That's the only symphysis you can
like it. Right. Please don't palpate the other.
There's also a protuberance there, isn't there?
A protuberance.
Mental protuberance or something.
I'm not familiar anymore. That's a Mr. Donahue question. Sorry. Okay, so these are points that we are going to also need to know because all of our centering is based off of those few points right there. Final thing, I want you to look at his eyes. Okay, I'm going to try not to stab them out. And I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to put this right across the eye. It's almost like a sensor bar, right? It's like, oh, you don't know who this person is. I'm covering his eyes with the pen.
Interpupillary.
Okay. Interpupillary line. Very good. This is how we can tell if our patient has any tilt to the head. What do we mean by tilt? How is tilt different from rotation?
They go like this.
So this is flexion extension.
Oh.
Good. So tilt. So this is our
Oh,
sideways tilt,
okay.
right? So we have rotation like this, which is turning, but you can rotate without tilting, and you can also tilt without rotating, right? So we need to check for both rotation and tilt when we do things like our lateral. All right, come over here, Jones. Should be dry by now. And we are going to start with our cranium. So for the cranium, there are two projections. We have the PA and we have the PA axial. The PA axial is also called the Caldwell. Here's the tricky part. There are 3 Caldwells this chapter. You have the Caldwell for the cranium, Caldwell for the facial bones, and Caldwell for the sinuses. Okay? So it's important that you do not mix these up. Let's start with the PA. So John, I'm going to have you turn around, face the board. Here, he's not touching the board yet. I'm going to start by bringing this board up to around where I think our centering is going to be, which is about his head level, right? Earlier, my center was all the way down here. I already know that's too low. Just going to raise this up to something that I can work with, so I can just make small adjustments rather than big motions. Okay. Going to do the same thing here to my tube. Bless you. Okay, and I'm going to turn off the lights now.
This is perpendicular.
So the first thing we're going to do is, actually, I'm sorry, let me turn on the lights. Just so that you can see. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this OML perpendicular to the IR. Okay. So I need to get my pen going, making like a T to my IR. So right now, this is the OML, right? This is not coming in directly. What do I need to do?
Tilt or flex.
Good. So the chin's going to come down, chin's going to come down. Very good. Just a tiny bit more. Great. So now this is horizontal, right? And you'll notice that if you bring the patient straight in now and you have them touch the IR, chin up a little bit, touch. What do you notice is touching the IR?
The forehead.
Forehead and?
The nose.
The nose. So if you want to get your OML perpendicular, for most patients, you can just tell them, touch your forehead and nose to the IR. That should be your starting point. Once you do that, you come over here and you measure, and depending on your patient, right, they might be slightly different. You'll very slightly adjust the head from there. But forehead and nose is a very, very good starting point. Does that make sense? Okay. This is just our regular plain old PA. So, I do not have an angle here on my tube. Now, my centering is going to be at the nasion. Right, nasion, right here at the top of the nose. So, if I put my pen here, right at the top of the nose, this is where I'm aiming to center. Pretty close already, right? So I'll just make a very small adjustment. Okay. Looking straight down this line. Ooh, maybe I can come down just tiny bit.
Down.
All right, that looks pretty nasion to me. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Now, here's another tricky thing. Depending on how tall you are, you may see this line differently. For example, notice how the line cuts off here, right? Because the head's in the way. So you don't see the laser all the way to the nasion. If I'm tall and I'm standing here, I'm like, this line might look a little bit low to me. On the other hand, if I'm short and I'm looking up, I'm like, that line might look a little bit high. But if you go at eye level to this line and you look straight across, you'll notice it's actually exactly at the nasion. So when you're checking for this, you either need to get eye level to your laser, which might be difficult if the patient's really, really tall,
Looks high to me.
right? Or you come over here, you stick your pen here at the nasion, right? Okay, hold it still, and then you turn on your laser. All right.
Looks high to me.
Because you're short.
All right, so is this laser on the pen?
Yes.
It is on the pen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Told you you're short.
Right, so if you're looking from underneath, it will look slightly higher. So that's kind of like an optical illusion, something that we need to watch out for. All right, so now that I have my height here, I'm gonna adjust my body. So careful, Thomas, back it a tiny bit. Good. Okay, great, touch again. Okay, so I have my vertical centering. Next, I need to get my horizontal centering. So I'm going MSP still. Oh, I'm gonna have you slide over towards me. Okay, so you just get the body here in the center. All right, and I'm gonna also turn your head back slightly this way. Can you touch? So I'm trying to get the back of him in the center here. Okay, don't move your head. Okay. Trying to get him right here in the center. But at the same time, I want to make sure that his nose is also in the center of this IR, right? Because I don't want him, I'm gonna move your head slightly. I don't want him doing something like this, right? Where the back of the head is centered, but the front of the head is not. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that both the front and the back of my heads are centered here. And if you need to, just stand right here behind the patient and just look straight on to make sure like the ears look even to you. Right, to make sure both sides look the same. Okay. Let's see. So we have our centering, both vertical and horizontal, taken care of. Next up is going to be, well, we have our positioning. So let's take care of our collimation. Okay, as far as collimation goes, you want to make sure that you're getting the top of the head inside your light. Okay. And you want to make sure that you have some light on the outside, on the edges of your patient's head, right? Because if you're in too far like this, you're clipping off the bone. But at the same time, you want to collimate still. So you want to collimate just to the edge of the patient's head. Okay, the Merrill's recommends leaving about an inch of space in between the skin and the edge of the light. So that's something you can try for. I know Mr. Donahue prefers it even tighter than that, just because in headwork you need good collimation. Okay.
Do we look at the ears as they stick out?
Mm-hmm. Right, so you can look at the ears, right, and just get it like right to the tip, or maybe even cut off a little bit of the ears, and that should be good. All right. Now, yes, we are doing headwork. We are very, very far from the gonadal region, but that does not mean you shouldn't shield. So I should have done this from the very beginning. Okay, I'm going to put this here. Go ahead and just Velcro down, right on top of left. Perfect. All right, let me turn off the lights. Let's take a look at how we did. Okay. What are you doing, Merrill's? All right, so centering here at the nasion, centering here at MSP, we have light on the edges of our cranium, and we're supposed to get the top of the head as well. Here really doesn't look like we're getting the top of the head, but that's what Merrill says that we should be able to. So I'm just gonna have to.
I see more light on the left side than the right.
Mm-hmm. So it does look like there's more light on the left side than the right. I do suspect that's because we've gotten slightly off our MSP. Okay, and then we'll just elevate in a little bit. There we go. So that we're on the tips of the ears on both sides. All right. So this is your PA cranium. Now, this is what Merrill says to do. In clinic, if you ever do get a skull, my recommendation is to center slightly higher so that you make sure you have light above the top of the head. Okay, so even though this is exactly how Merrill says to do it, my recommendation in clinic is actually,
Because we don't need that C4 or
right,
C5,
this is
right?
a cranium, right? We're interested in the top, we're not so interested in down here. So I do recommend raising it up, right? Pat down the hair so that you don't go too far, right? But get enough light above the head so that you're certain you get the bony structure up here as well. Okay, so it's actually about an inch higher than the Merrill's positioning. Okay, so that's what I recommend for clinic, but for lab, just do it exactly as Merrill says. Okay, we're good?
Athanasium.
Athenasia. All right, so when you go to clinic and you shoot these skulls, right, you're not going to say, well, Mr. Fung told me to always shoot athenasia even if I clip the top, right? You're not saying that. Please don't say that.
So this is like
Exactly
the
what
top of the
Mr. Fung
ear.
didn't say that.
The light was like at the top of the ear.
So I wouldn't trust this
Okay.
because it would depend on the patient. Just make sure you have light above the head. That's the key thing. Any questions about PA cranium? Okay, don't move, Johns. Breathing instructions, what are they?
Suspend.
Good, just hold your breath, X-ray, breathe, don't move. Okay, next up is the PA axial Caldwell. Your positioning is exactly the same. It is still OML perpendicular to the IR, forehead and nose touching the board. The only difference here is we are putting an angle on our tube. How much angle? 15 degrees.
Cephalic?
Caudded.
Oh, God.
All angles are going to be caudded except for which anatomy? Check the front, top of the front page. All angles are going to be caudded except for which anatomy? Check the top of the front page.
Mandibles.
Except for mandibles.
Valid.
That's right, mandibles are the only cephalic angle. So I'm going to put on a 15-degree angle here. All right, 15 degrees. Our centering point, we are once again going to be exiting the nasion. All right, so when this comes down, this should pass through the nasion. So I need to come up just a little bit. Okay, so I'll come down just a tiny bit. Okay. So if I just follow my central ray here, I'm gonna see that this passes through my nasion. And then I'm just gonna adjust this IR. So careful, Johns. Great. Touch again. Remember, these do not need to line up. The key is to line your laser up with the dot here on your bucky. Okay, 15 degrees, caudded angle. OML, perpendicular. MSP, hopefully. Okay, yes, MSP, right down the middle. Head, no rotation, no tilt. This is your PA axial Caldwell. Okay, remember this position because you're going to do the exact same thing when we get to facial bones. Okay, this is your PA axial Caldwell.
First one was PA Caldwell.
First one was PA cranium.
Oh, PA cranium.
Our PA axial cranium is called our Caldwell. Okay, so we have PA cranium, which doesn't have a fancy name.
Oh.
We have PA axial cranium, which is our Caldwell.
Axial
So,
Caldwell.
yeah. Okay, so that's it. Don't actually need to make a lot of adjustments here.
Okay.
So far, so good?
I just have a question. If I can't do that, can I do her sitting down?
Yes, so that's why in the notes it says it may be done standing or sitting.
Yeah, me
So
too.
especially if you're a shorter tech, sit all your patients down for head work. It'll make your life a lot easier. Okay, just just sit all your patients down. Have a chair here. When we talk about doing these, what you're gonna usually end up doing is just turn your chair according to your patient. So if you're doing your lateral, right, just turn the chair lateral. If you're doing PA, turn the chair PA. All right, any questions? We're good? Okay, you can relax now, Johns. Okay, how are you so far?
My head hurts.
Your head hurts.
Without putting too much pressure on it.
Oh, you're just smushing your head against the board.
No pun
Well,
intended.
how's your neck feeling?
No pun intended.
A little rough? Okay, well then I'm sorry for what I'm about to do.
You're supposed to be getting treated, not getting paid.
Okay, so the reason I say that is because our next position is going to be lateral cranium. Laterals are notoriously difficult because you want to do multiple things at one time. You are trying to reduce OID by getting the head all the way up against the board, while making sure there's a true lateral position, no rotation left or right, while making sure that there's no head tilt and that the head is perfectly straight, while making sure that IOML is perfectly flat, while making sure you're also centering. So you're doing multiple things at one time. Okay, so laterals can be tricky. And the way we get our patient into a lateral position is somewhat difficult for the patient to hold a very long time. Okay, so you can't take 10 minutes setting up your lateral either. So let me show you what it's supposed to look like. Right. If we have the patient standing like this, what do you notice?
Oh, I do.
OID. So you're not going to put your patient's body lateral. You're only going to put the head lateral. Instead, we're going to oblique our patient into a very, very slight LAO. So slight LAO. We're going to have the patient turn their head, turn to face me, and touch your ear and ear only to the IR. Okay, good. All right, I'm going to turn the lights on, okay? So I want everyone to stand right here where I am, right here on this set of tiles. All right, so Nancy first. I want you to look at the head and tell me what you see.
I mean, his face looks tilted, like, well, it doesn't look straight.
Mm-hmm. All right, good. Angelica, come on over. Tell me what you see. Stand right here.
It looks like everything could be wrong. Rotation, tilt.
All right, Carla, come on over here. Tell me what you see.
Yeah, I feel like it's tilted.
Okay, so
But it's not.
you guys are correct in that this is not a good lateral. So we need to do things to kind of check what's going on. At the very least, what's their OID?
No.
No, okay, so that's one down. All right, so let's get the easy one out of the way. Underneath the eye, right? IOML. How does that look?
It looks straight.
Does this look like it's going horizontal?
No.
No, this looks like it's aiming
Oh.
slightly up to be.
Slightly out.
So what
This
does the
way.
patient have to do?
Hit them.
Chin down, good. How about now?
Yes.
Pretty good?
Yeah.
All right, we'll take it. So, we got our flexion extension out of the way. Next up, let's try and fix our rotation. So, John, so what I'm gonna have you do is I want you to turn your head this way.
What? Wait.
Turn towards your right, turn your whole head towards the right, good.
Yeah.
Yep, keep touching that ear. So, notice that earlier he was touching his cheek to the IR, right?
Yes.
The head is curved kind of like this. If the patient is touching the ear and the cheek, the head has to be rotated. There's no way to touch the cheek and the ears without rotation. So if you ever see the cheek touching, you know there's rotation. Right, so here, right, I'm gonna just put this here MSP, and I'm gonna look on both sides. All right, this looks a lot more even. I can see the ears on both sides, I can see the cheek. They look the same distance from the nose.
The ears touching?
So yes, if you come over here, stand right there, you see how the ear is touching right there?
Okay, but not the cheek.
But not the cheek,
What if they
exactly.
have chunky cheeks?
Even if they have chunky cheeks. Okay. So, next, we need to check tilt. So you can do that by looking at their MSP and seeing if it leans, or the proper way, try not to move,
My neck hurts.
exactly. The proper way is to do IP out, right? So I'm going to put this in between the pupils. All right, and does that look flat?
A little crooked.
A little crooked. Okay, which way can I adjust it?
Bring this side down a little bit.
All right. So, Johns, I need
Are
you
you
to
supposed
take
to do
the
that?
top of your head
Yeah.
and move it slightly over. Perfect. Did
What
you
do
see that?
do?
No.
No.
All right.
I'm gonna go back.
Yep. So just take the top of your head and move it slightly away from the board.
Oh.
Notice how we did that?
Mhm.
And now, when we do our IPO, okay, how about that now?
Yeah.
Looks better. Okay, are we done?
How's my neck asking?
So are we done? Maybe. Because after we did all these adjustments, we need to go back and make sure that when we did our later adjustments, it didn't mess up our previous adjustments. So are we still at IOML? No, it's a little bit high. Are we still with good rotation? Our rotation looks pretty good. Is our tilt okay? All right, yeah, tilt looks fine. We'll take it. All right. So we'll leave the patient like that. And then, like the silly people we are, we realize, oh no, I forgot to switch this crosswise. How about you just hold your head there for another 3 minutes while I get this fixed? Right? Da-da-da-da. You better not be moving. Otherwise you have to do the positioning over again. Oh yeah, I should probably do centering as well.
Oh, oh.
Oh, okay. Well, centering is easy. You find the EAM. 3 fingers is 2 inches. You go 2 inches above EAM. So we should be centered right here.
2 inches above.
So that should be our centering. 2 inches above the EAM. But our centering line is also right here. Right? If we turn off the lights, right? This line also needs to be on the EAM.
Oh.
So we've got to slide his head
Oh,
forward
gosh.
without ruining any of our positioning.
Oh no.
All right, so
So we should have done
come
the
straight
centering
forward.
first.
That's
Who
right.
came up with this one?
Yep, perfect, right there.
Centering first.
All right, let's make sure that nothing has changed. Okay, how's our IOML? Okay, looks a little bit high now. Chin down, perfect. Whoop, too far.
Too
Back up. Just a tiny bit more.
Up or down?
Up, sorry. Good. All right, how's our rotation? Rotation seems pretty good. How's our tilt? You can maybe bring the top of your head just a tiny bit away. But yep,
He's gonna
perfect.
need a bed after this.
Make sure you're touching your ears still.
To lay down.
I'm gonna get
All right.
color.
And
You
now,
need a
after
seat.
all this,
He's gonna need a seat
we
cushion.
find out we have light on top of the head, light in front of the face, and light behind the head. Especially for girls who have a lot of hair in the back usually, make sure that you pat down the hair so that you are guaranteeing that you have the bony structure in the back. Once you've done that, you just collimate in slightly, right? While making sure you still have the top and the front and the back. Okay, still make sure that we have minimum OID without ruining our tilt, without ruining our rotation. I do feel like we need to rotate this way a little bit more now. Yep, perfect. Okay, and then make sure you're pushing your head against the IR. Yep, there we go. All right. And finally, after all of that work, we have our lateral cranium. So hold still, don't move. Hold your breath. X-ray, you can breathe. and you can relax.
You got them on too?
You have our pictures? All right, you can relax. Stretch out the neck. So, what did we learn about lateral cranium? It's number one, it's hard. Number two, make sure you have your order straight before you go in, right? Because as you saw, if we position first and then suddenly realize, oh no, I need to fix all these other things, you just wasted all your time. Because you have to change things, and then when you go back to position, your patient may have moved, and you start over from square one. Right, so make sure that you've got your cassette in, make sure that you're at about the correct centering location before you do all your fine tuning. Does that make sense?
When you get a cranium, what would be the protocol?
You'll have all four of these that we're about to do. PA, Caldwell, lateral, and finally the AP TAM. Okay. So for our AP TAM, go ahead and swing your shield to the front because this is an AP.
Front or?
Yep. Okay, put your back against the board. AP TAM is going to be a 30-degree corded angulation. So you're going to take this and you're going to drop this all the way down to 60. Right? 30 degrees corded angulation. That is assuming your patient is able to tuck their chin and get the OML flat. Now, maybe their chin's a little bit too chubby and they can't get their chin down all the way. Maybe they can only bring it down far enough to get the IOML flat. If they can only get the IOML flat, you need to add an additional 7 degrees onto your angulation. So from here, we would actually end up all the way at 53. Okay, so this would be for IOML, and this here would be for OML. Does that make sense? You said no?
She said,
Oh, you said okay. All right, here's the next part about the TAM. All right, so, John, so what I'm gonna have you do is I just want you to kind of like lean back almost like a lordotic so that you can get the back, shoulders and back of the head against here. Yep. Actually, let me slide this down to give you some more support. All right, you don't need to be that far away. You can go closer. Yeah, but just lean back very slightly. And I want you to duck that chin, duck that chin. Good, so.
wow.
Yeah, that's right. While keeping the head as close to the board as you can.
A little awkward.
What?
Alright. Let's see. Okay, duck the chin a little bit more. There we go. Great. There's our OML flat. We are going to center at the unicorn horn. So if you imagine a unicorn, you're like, oh yeah, unicorns have a horn right here, right? This point is where we're centering. You are going to find the glabella, right, the area here between the eyebrows. You're going to go 2.5 inches above the glabella. It's going to be approximately at the hairline for most people. Okay, so if I have John's hair, I'm like, oh yeah, unicorn would be like that, right? So here, all right, I'm putting my fingers here, and notice, right, at 2.5 inches, it is like right here, right underneath his hairline. All right, close your eyes. Where's my centering?
At the, like C4, C3.
Down into C-spine. Okay, I just need to raise this tube up, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a problem, don't I? All right, you can relax, Jones.
they need to sit.
So, if you look at your notes, what does it say at the very top?
Standing or sitting?
When does it say you should use sitting? No, front page, very top, what does it say?
Oh, like
For the town?
Should be done sitting.
Towns and SMV should be done sitting. So AP towns, we should do the patient sitting. Just grab the chair. Now, when you do the AP towns, you do not want to put the chair here like this. Why? Because it's going to give you OID. So instead, you put the chair like this, and you have the patient put the legs over the side of the chair. All right, so have a seat, please. And then swing your legs over the side of the chair.
I'm gonna put this on my lap.
Sure, no problems. Whatever you say, boss. All right.
Patient
Where'd you want me to-
satisfaction.
You're good. I just want to make sure that I have you in the center. So let me actually just wiggle this chair over a tiny bit. All right, have a seat again. Okay, good. Right. Let's see. Now for you yourself, I'm just going to have you wiggle a tiny bit to your right. Well, move your whole body, move your hips as well. Good. All right, there we go. So notice I'm getting him MSP ahead of time, right? In addition,
Oh,
gotta fix this.
lengthwise.
Right? The only crosswise that we're doing is that lateral cranium.
Okay.
Everything else is going to be lengthwise. Huh. I should put that in the notes. Okay, lengthwise IR. Patients here, they're sitting. I'm gonna have you scoot your hips forwards as well, just a little bit. That way you can get that lordotic position. Tiny bit more. Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
Good. So, all right. So we're gonna have you kind of like lean your shoulders back and then chin down. Good. Now, let me ask you. Let's say the patient cannot bring the chin down without bringing their head forwards and adding OID. What should you do? Should you leave the OID minimal with the chin slightly higher than it should be? Or should you just bring the head forwards, add OID, but get the chin to the proper location?
Move the chin back a little bit.
So you only have two options right now. Your option is, number one, patient's head is against the IR, but the OML is too high. Second option is patient's head is away from the IR, but the OML is correct.
The OML is correct.
OML is correct.
That's right. If you need to make a choice between positioning and OID, always choose positioning. OID adds a bit of magnification, right? But if you have perfect OID, but you mess up your positioning, you have a non-diagnostic image. You would rather have magnification than a non-diagnostic image. So always prioritize your positioning, even if that means adding a little bit of OID. Does that make sense? But ideally, you will be the tech that can do both. So let me slide you over, yep, and back, chin down, and let's see if we can get that OML nice and flat. All right, chin down a tiny bit more. Okay, tiny bit more. Yep, that's acceptable. Very good. Hold that. And now we have enough distance to go after the unicorn horn. All right, so glabella, 2.5 inches. I can go up just a tiny bit. Glabella, 2.5 inches. All right, great. So right there in the middle of my 4th or 5th digit. All right, notice that I'm also wanting to keep this MSP. So I'm just going to rotate the head a little, slide the head a little. All right. Good. Make sure that we're nice and in the center. By the way, for a real patient, you should probably ask them before touching their head. Okay.
What, you align the OML?
Yeah, so OML should be flat, entering here at the point 2.5 inches above the glabella. All right, try not to move. I'm gonna just wiggle this board very slightly behind you. I'm gonna match my IR to my CR. Okay, OML still looks good. All right, I'm gonna collimate. All right. And so this here, all right, so let me just slide you over very slightly. turn your head to your left. Good. Let's fix our collimation. Okay. Slide your shoulders to the right. All right. And I just realized that I forgot to show you marker placement on the previous ones. So, I know, right? 10 points off. So, since I'm demonstrating everything, including left laterals, I'm just going to be using my left marker the whole time. Just take the marker, you can squeeze it in this top corner, you can squeeze it down here in this bottom corner, doesn't matter. It'll be fine either way. All right, and that is your AP TAMS. Set your patient, scoot the hips forwards a little bit, lordotic, chin down, and then boom, unicorn horn. That's how you minimize your OID. If you can't minimize your OID, that's fine. Add some OID, but get the chin down. Now, let's say that Johns was not able to get the chin all the way down. So raise the chin up just slightly. You can relax your head a bit. All right, so just bring it down very slightly. Good, stop there. So let's say this is the furthest he could bring his chin down. The OML is not flat. We're at IOML instead. Once again, how do we fix this?
More angulation.
More angulation. So instead of what we have here, I'm going to angle down even further and do this. Whoa. Right. Now this would be what you would have to do if your patient can't get the chin all the way down. Right. Even more angulation. Does that make sense? All right, very good. Because we have this much angulation, what the image will look like is it will look like an alien head. You know E.T., right, with the long, that's exactly what the image looks like. You got this like really long, kind of like round at the top, kind of narrow at the bottom alien head. All right, thank you, John. You can relax. And that is it. Those are our 4 cranium exams. All right, great job, John. Stand up. And I'll take that. Thank you. Any questions about cranium? Okay so far? Where did I put it?
What are you looking for?
The wipes. Oh. Put them over here. Okay. Definitely between each patient, make sure to wipe this down. All right, so who would want to go next?
I can go.
All right, so let's see, I'll give you the option. Would you like to do facial bones or sinuses? One of them you'll need to do 2 laterals, the other one you'll need to do an S&P.
Which one?
Facial bones, So, I brought my cassette lengthwise. I'm going to raise this up to about the height of my patient. Take off the angle for now. Okay, so facial bones, I think that's page 4. Or is it 3?
3.
It's 3? Oh,
I think so.
okay, page 3.
4. Yeah.
4. Oh. So, for facial bones, do we have a PA?
2.
No.
Do we have a PA axial?
Yes.
Yes. So facial bones also has our PA axial Caldwell. Right? So PA axial facial bones, PA axial Caldwell. It is done exactly the same as your cranium. So you don't need to memorize anything new. You do it exactly the same as your cranium. 15 degrees angulation. Exits at the nasion. Forehead and nose touching the IR. So if I could have you turn to face this. Oh, and this time I'm going to make sure you put this on first. I'll put that in the front, please. Right over left. Perfect. All right, come over here. And you're going to touch your forehead and nose to the forward. Bring your chin down, touch your forehead. Good. All right, slide back a little bit. Let me slide this down.
This one's gonna wait and bring this down.
Okay, good. Touch forehead and nose, forehead and nose. So remember, forehead and nose is our approximate positioning. We still need to check OML afterwards. So let's see if this actually worked out. Bring your chin down, good. All right, looks good. Great, stay exactly like that. We've already got our 15 degrees. We just got to get this to exit at the nasion. All right. That's pretty nasion to me. Maybe we can come up just like half an inch. All right, good. So exiting the nasion. And then I need to make sure this is lined up, not to the black line, but to the dot. So I'm just going to drop this down a little bit more, about half an inch. Good. Make sure our patient hasn't moved. Still OML, good. Still nasion, good. All right. Let's make sure that we're MSP. All right, so just looking here, I think our patient's a little bit rotated, so I'm going to turn your head this way. Bring your shoulders over as well. MSP is right here, so bring your shoulders over. Good. More. Oops, pardon me. All right, so here we have something that looks a lot like our cranium Caldwell. However, we are doing this for what?
Facial bones.
Facial bones. So for facial bones, what you are going to do, the difference between facial bones and cranium Caldwell is in the collimation. We are going to collimate more on the facial bones compared to the cranium. For example, what bones do we have up here? We've got what's here in the front?
Frontal.
The frontal.
Frontal, great. What about here on the sides?
Parietal.
Parietal. Do we need any of these for facial bones? No. So we can actually collimate and cut off the top of the head. Okay, so you see the top of the head? Now you don't. I collimated so I don't have the top of the head anymore. Does that make sense? All right. Slide you over to make sure that you are centered. Okay, and then same thing for the sides. On the sides, I'm going to come in all the way here to the ears. All right. So tighter collimation compared to the cranium. As far as the marker goes, okay, left side, I can put it here in the corner, or I can put it down here as well, as long as it's outside in the light. Okay. Right there. Okay. And then once we're here, hold your breath, X-ray, you can breathe. That is your PA Caldwell facial bones. Any questions here? Just like we saw previously, right? Just tighter collimation. Right here, so what does the note say as far as collimation for facial bones? PA caudal facial bones, first page. Look on the first page. Bottom chart. What collimation does it say for facial bones? 8 by 10. Here I actually have almost 8 by 8. Right, of 8.5 by 8. So, as far as collimation goes, right, you can definitely be smaller than what the chart says. All right, great. You can relax, Monty. Thank you. All right, the next one we're going to do is new. We are going to do the PA waters. The easy way to remember PA waters is to think, if you're in the water, right, and you're drowning, what does your head do? Up. So on the PA waters, head goes up. Does that make sense? Okay. No angle on the tube. The way we're going to do the waters, we are now using the MML. What was the MML? Mentomeatal line. Mentum, right? Front of the mandible here. Meatal, EAM. So you're going from this tip of the chin to the ear. That is the mentomeatal line. We are taking this and putting this line flat. We are getting this line flat. However, we are not going to break the patient's neck. So if you have the head all the way like this, you are doing something wrong. The head should not look like you're trying to break the neck. It should be slightly up, just a little bit of distance from the tip of the nose to the IR. So let's try. Okay, I'm going to have you raise your chin. Good, touch your chin to the board. Good, come down very slightly. Stop there. And now let's take a look at our MML. So come on over. If you have pens, you're free to try and measure this as well. All right, let me even turn on the light so you have an easier time seeing. So, if you stand right here, and I draw a horizontal line, does that pass through the mentum?
Mm-hmm.
Does that pass through the EAM?
Mm-hmm.
So this is our MML. Now, remember, the MML is an approximate guideline. What are we really looking for? We are looking at the OML. So does everyone see the OML here?
Yeah.
The OML needs to be at an angle of 37 degrees. Good luck measuring 37 degrees. So just use your MML. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, very good. Once we have our patient here, let's get them centered for the MSP as well, which in fact they look perfectly fine for MSP. So let's get our patient centered up and down. Where's the central ray going to exit? This time it is exiting at this point under the nose. What is that? A canthion. Great. So it should be exiting right here. Are we at the canthion?
Gotta come down a little bit.
Come down a little bit?
A little
All right.
bit.
I'm gonna trust you.
That's good.
That's good?
Uh-huh.
All right. Yeah, I agree. That's good. And now, where are we here? Ooh, we will come up. All right, so
Hazel, you let me.
bring your head just a tiny bit away. All right, great touch. Make sure that we haven't changed our positioning. Make sure we haven't changed our MSP. All right. Turn off the lights once again. And so this is the positioning for a Waters. Only thing left to do now is to collimate. So I'm going to collimate here to the sides. Right, that way will also help me with my centering. Good. I'm going to collimate vertically And once again, what bone is right here? Frontal. I do not need the frontal bone, so I'm going to collimate off the frontal bone. Right? Notice the frontal bone is up here, and I am getting rid of the frontal bone. All right.
Now where you put
And
your
then-
marker looks very small.
Yeah. Just squeeze it in there.
How much do you collimate the other way?
It's 8 by 4, 8 by 8.5.
Like just like a little bit light on the sides.
That's right. So almost no light on your sides here, and just corners of light here at the top. You'll see when you see John's video or pictures. Okay, this is our PA Waters facial bones. Any questions? So far, so good? All right, great. You can relax, Monsi. All right. We have two final projections, but only one of them is specifically facial bones, and that is the lateral. So we are going to have our patient do a very slight RAO. Turn the head all the way. Oh, sorry, RAO. Thank you. Turn the head to face me. Touch your ear, touch your head to the IR. Okay. For this one, number one, we do not change our cassette. It stays lengthwise. Number two, where do we center for facial bones? Have you learned your facial bones yet with Mr. Donahue, or have you only learned the cranial bones?
I think only the cranial bones.
Only cranial. So do you know what your cheekbones are called?
Zygoma?
Zygoma.
Oh,
Yes. So we are going to be centering here, because these are our zygomatic arches. But we're going to be centering here on the cheeks. Okay, because the cheek is a facial bone. And the cheek, is kind of pointy, it sticks out. At the same time, we are centering midway between the EAM and the outer canthus. So find this line, find the line that is in between the EAM and the outer canthus, and then go down until you find the cheekbone. And that is where you center. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right, so EAM is right here, outer canthus is right here, and then in between these 2 points should be a cheekbone right here. Right, so this is going to be our centering point. Except we still need to do everything else as well. So what do we mean by everything else?
OID,
Tilt,
Tilt, rotation, and flexion, IOML. So let's try and do the flexion first. Bring your chin down. Chin down, chin down, chin down. Good. Now this one's convenient because in Monsi's case, this almost passes through the EAM, right? So I'm just going to wait until this laser gets to the IOML position. Down a little bit more. Good. See, right under the orbit. IOML. It's going to be hard for you guys to see on that side because all you see is the back of the
the
head.
other one, was it
So
IOML?
I do recommend coming on this side if you want to see. You don't want to look at the back of the head.
The other lateral, it was IOML?
All your laterals are IOML. So all laterals are positioned the same way. The only difference is centering. So come to the front. When you do your laterals, you must stand right here. Okay? No exceptions. When you're trying to do rotation, when you try and do tilt, you have to be standing right here. Not on this side, not on this side, right here. Directly facing the patient. Does that make sense? Because otherwise you can't properly judge if the patient is in a lateral or not. So, right now the only thing I can do from this position is IOML. All right, so chin down very slightly, perfect. Good. I'm now going to depend on all of you. So, standing there, what does the patient need to do as far as rotation goes? Is the patient looking straight ahead?
She needs to look this way a little bit.
She needs to look this way.
A little bit, just a tiny bit.
Right. So
Yeah.
okay. So she's looking straight ahead now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next. All right. IPL, interpupillary line. How does it look?
Tilted.
Tilted. What does the patient need to do?
Chin closer, yeah.
All right. So top of the head away, chin closer. Okay. Great. So, are we good now? As far as centering goes?
She could get a little closer to the board. Should be good.
All right. Oh, IOML has changed. All right, bring your chin back down. A little bit more. Good. How about rotation? Does the rotation still look okay?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Carla? What do you think? Does the rotation still look okay?
Yeah.
Angelica?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does the tilt still look okay? Does the patient look like they're leaning one way or the other?
The chin a little closer to the adjusted chin. Yeah, now it looks better.
Bring your chin down again. IOML. Mm-hmm. All right. Check rotation. Check tilt. How does it look?
That's good.
You think that's good? So if I come around, it's going to be a perfect lateral, right?
Sure.
Sure.
All right. So tilt looks good. Rotation can use some work. So what I want you to look at in here, let's turn on the light so it's a little bit easier to see this. All right. So stand right here. One person.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to look at this cheek.
Mm-hmm.
From the cheek to the ear, what do you see?
Cheek to the ear.
So stay right there. From the cheek to the ear, what do you see?
I can't see her ear.
Cheek to the ear, what do you see?
Oh.
The cheekbone, the arch.
Yeah.
You see this whole face, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you see that on this side?
No.
So you have rotation.
Um,
So what does the patient need to do?
Tilt your head that way.
Tilt?
No, not tilt. Rotate your head that way. More. That's good.
Now he's like, I can't go.
Yeah, there's
no more.
OID.
All right. Let's take a look
Position
now.
over OID.
All right. Looks a lot better now. Good. Positioning over OID. That's right. So the way Mansi said a shape, right? It's kind of like a V. So this bottom part will not be touching the IR, right? It's only going to be this top part and the ears that are going to be touching the IR. And that's fine. That's okay. So that's a lot better. But now the problem is, when we did that, guess what happened?
Move everything.
IOML went back up. So let's bring the chin down. When she did that, look at what happened to your rotation.
Yeah.
It went back. So she has to find a way to bring the chin down without turning her head back towards the IR. So turn this way. Okay, good. Now bring the chin straight down. All right, a lot better now. Good, so there is our lateral positioning. And then we need to go back and fine tune our centering. Right? Because earlier we said our centering should have been right here. And now after all those adjustments, the centering is back here. So without moving anything else, I'm just going to slide your shoulders straight back. Good, right there. Does the positioning still look okay?
I feel like now she rotated even more this way because there's OID.
All right, so good. Touch your head. Let's see. All right. So rotation seems fine. Just need to take the top of your head and move it away from the IR like that. Good.
Yeah. What did I say?
All right, that's acceptable. Okay, and then without turning back, just bring your head chin straight down. Good. All right, from here, we are going to collimate. What bone is this?
Frontal.
Do we need it? No. What bone is this? Jawbone, mandible. Is this part of the face? Yes. So make sure you get the chin. We have the chin, but we do not have frontal bone on our image. Nose, it's okay to cut off the tip of the nose, that's fine. Back of the light is going to include the EAM. If you collimate too much, you'll be able to tell because you won't have nose and you won't have EAM. Okay? So this is your lateral facial bones for as long as Monty can hold it. Here's the, yes, your tech will probably ask you to open it up wider, but remember, when you open it up wider, you get more scatter. So this is the proper way to do it. Okay, any questions? Okay, hold still, hold your breath, X-ray. You can breathe, don't move. Don't move because the next thing we're going to discuss is nasal bones. And for nasal bones, we only have one position. The lateral. All we're going to do is take our patient who is already positioned properly, slide them back, scoot, 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 scoot. You can move your feet if you need to. Scoot, 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 scoot. Good. All right. Once again, oblique, touch your head. Good. Turn this way. Good. Chin down. Good. Turn a little bit more. Good. Chin down. Good. Turn a little bit more. Good. Top of the head away. You're good. No, no. Turn back. Go top. Just top of the head away. And actually turn back towards your left. Very. Good. Tiny bit more. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Lateral position.
There you go,
This one is very, very easy. Nasion. Half an inch down. Why? Because the nasal bone is only about this long. So we're centering to the nasal bone here by going to the nasion and going half an inch down. Okay. And then all you do is you collimate. Book says no greater than 3 by 3.
Ooh. So the smallest collimation area.
I know.
Oops. Okay, sorry, let me drop this down.
The way you want to take it.
Actually, bring your chin down.
Look at it. The light turn. The lamp turns on.
Right back.
This?
Mm-hmm.
Right there.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh, wow, whenever the sun was.
No, no, whenever you turn it on.
Oh, that's cute, yeah.
Okay, touch. Top of the head away. Touch. Turn back towards yourself. Good. All right. There you go. This is your lateral nasal bones. 3 by 3 collimation. For me, I actually told my previous students 2 by 1 collimation. What does that look like? It looks something like this.
Our marker's 2 by 1.
Oh well, it won't let me do 2 by 1, but it looks something like this. Really small, right? So you don't need to go that small. It's fine. Merrill says you can go to 3 by 3. Right? Gives you just enough room to squeeze your marker in. Positioning is exactly the same as your lateral head, lateral cranium, lateral facial bones, right? It's all the same lateral. Only difference is centering, nasion, half inch down, and collimation, 3 by 3, tiny collimation. Does that make sense? So just hold still, hold your breath, X-ray, you can breathe, and now you can relax. Thank you, Monsi. Okay, any questions? What time is it?
12.
All right. Okay, we knew it. Speed things up. I'll take this off you. All right, and who's going to be our next volunteer? I see. All right, so Angelica has excused herself. Okay, Sarah.
She volunteered me without volunteering me.
Right after you guys.
She was holding that. Wow. Huh? All right.
Oh, okay.
So,
Oh, was that an angle or were those just straight?
so
Pretty good.
everything was straight except for the Caldwell. The Caldwell was the only thing with an angle.
30? No, 15.
15, very good.
But we did an angle for our town, no?
Yeah, so yes, if we're going to include cranium, then yes, we also had an angle for
Okay.
the fountain. Okay, so Carla, I'm gonna have you put this, your back, yep, right over left. Perfect. Have you step over here, let me do my preliminary measurements. Should be somewhere around here. Okay. So for the sinus, we also have a Caldwell. However, this is a very special exception. On the previous Caldwells, how did we center and how did we position?
So it was OML
OML,
and then at the nasum?
exits at the nasion, and what else? What else did we have for the Caldwell? PA axial Caldwell.
Oh, and an angle.
Angle, how much?
15-degree cauda?
15 degrees, very good. So our OML was flat, and we always had a 15-degree angulation caudad to our OML. For the sinuses, what do you find inside sinuses?
Like mucus or something?
Right, so normally it's air, right? But when you get stuffed up, right, when you get, when you get stuffed up, right, when your sinuses feel like they are filled with mucus or they're filled with fluid. If you want to see fluid on an X-ray, what do you need to do? For example, if you want to see air and fluid on an abdomen, if you want to see air and fluid in the chest,
Breathe in.
You would do it.
Standing.
Upright?
that's right, we do it upright, and what is our tube doing? Is it at an angle?
No.
No, it is a horizontal beam. Upright with horizontal beam. That is how you see air and fluid. So for the sinuses, we are also looking at air and fluid. Sinuses are not allowed to have a 15-degree angle
Why is it called axial?
because the angle is coming from the OML. Instead of, we're keeping this 15 degrees to the OML,
So you're actually obliquing the patient.
but instead of the tube being angled, it is now the patient's
patient being
head being
obliqued.
angled. So the OML is going to be 15 degrees cephalic. We're aiming the OML upwards. Does that make sense? Yes? So chin is going to be higher than normal, which means when we bring Carla over here, come on over. Normally, we would say forehead and nose touching the IR, correct? But this time, we are going to tell the patient, lightly touch the tip of your nose to the IR. No forehead, no chin, just touch the tip of your nose to the IR. Okay, please do not kiss the IR. Okay, so lips should not be touching the IR, right? Only the tip of the nose. Very good. And if you now look, this is flat. Here, in fact, turn on the light so you can see a bit easier. This is flat, correct? But this is not the OML. The OML is up here. So this is our 15 degrees, right? This is flat, but our OML
That's
is
the canton
angled.
line.
A canton line is down here.
Down there. Okay.
So this line is nothing. There is no name for this line. Right above this line is the IOML, And right above the IOML is the OML.
Okay.
It's OML, IOML, and this is just a horizontal
Okay.
line. 15 degrees. By touching the tip of the nose, right? No lips, no forehead. Make sense? Right? And they do not need to squish their nose into the IR. Right? Just lightly touching the tip is fine.
Okay.
Any questions? All right. So, for all of our Caldwells previously, where did the IR exit? Where does the
Nasion.
central ray exit?
Nasion.
Nasion, and we're doing the exact same thing here. So we're still going to exit at the nasion,
Okay.
which is actually pretty much where we're at. All right. Careful, I'm just going to slide this down a little bit. Well, you don't need to go that far. It's not that scary. All right. Okay, raise your chin just slightly. Good, touch that tip of the nose. Great. Once again, I'm going to check MSP. Good, we're in the middle. Okay. Carlos is a little bit convenient because I can just like look straight down here. Get that bird's eye view. All right. And this is for sinuses. So once again, I can collimate and cut off the top of the head. Right? I do not need the top of the head for sinuses. I do not need the sides of the head for sinuses.
I'm gonna turn off the light.
You may turn off the light, yes. So just going to slide you over a little bit. Okay, lean the top of your head towards your right. There you go. Straighten out that tilt. Okay.
It's hard to see the MSP.
And so MSP is a bit tough to see on her, but it's
Yeah.
right there.
Okay.
So, what are we trying to do? We're trying to visualize the frontal sinuses. Here, we're trying to visualize the maxillary sinuses down here. Okay, so we have the top, we've got the bottom, so this is perfectly fine. Horizontal beam so that we can see air fluid levels. 15-degree angulation to keep our Caldwell look. Okay. And then marker, and just put it somewhere here in the corner, or put it somewhere down here in the corner. Doesn't matter. Make sure patient's not tilted. All right. Hold still, hold your breath. X-ray, you can breathe, you can relax. PA Caldwell sinuses. The key things to Caldwell, 15 degrees somewhere, either at the tube or at the patient, and then exits nasion. Those are the things that are carried through in all your Caldwells. 15 degrees and nasion. All right, very good. Any questions so far? All right, next up is the waters.
Again?
We've seen the waters before, right? On Muncie, right? Head up, right? So, PA facial bones, waters for the facial bones and waters for the sinus, exactly the same, aside from collimation. So we're doing this exactly the same. Okay, so right there,
Mental
chin up,
MML.
touch your chin to the IR. Okay, good. Nose not too far away, right? So, okay, I'm just gonna bring your head back just a little bit more, Carla. Chin up, chin up, chin. Right, so we're not trying to do this, right? We're not trying to break the neck. This looks painful, right? We don't want to do that. Back down, good. Okay, more like this. More relaxed. Gonna check that MML. All right, we can bring your chin up just very slightly. Good. Okay, but the main thing, right, regardless of what the chin is doing, the main thing is this angle. Now, I can't measure 37 degrees. That's way too specific. But what I can measure is 45, right? Because this is 0 degrees. This is 90 degrees. 45 is right between, correct? So does this look about 45 to you guys? Does this look between my horizontal and my vertical?
Yeah.
All right, where's my OML right now? Is it above, is it below, or is it equal to?
Above.
It's above? So this almost looks like my OML is equal to this. Right, because outer canthus is right there. Right, the corner of the eye. So
It's equal to?
my OML actually looks like it's 45 degrees right now. So even though my MML looks flat, this is 45 degrees. This is a bit too much. All right, so bring your chin very slightly down. Good. Right now you see the outer canthus is down there. All right, so there's my 45. So even though my MML is very slightly off, that's okay. MML is just an approximate positioning. Main thing I want to do is make sure I'm not too far up. I'm not beyond my 45 degrees. Does that make sense? So I just get my MML and then very slightly adjust the head.
We're trying to find we're trying to angle the OML.
Correct. That is your main positioning tool. OML should be 37 degrees. That's your actual goal. MML just helps you get there. You can't really measure 37 degrees, but just
So if it's 45, if it's right in the middle, and then we're just gonna tilt the head more,
Just a tiny bit
so
down.
it'll go low.
Just a tiny bit. Okay. Everything else remains the same. So where am I exiting?
Nasal. No.
Acanthion.
Oh, acanthion.
Good. So hold still. I'm going to bring this down very slightly. Good touch. Okay. I'm going to move my laser to match. Great. And once again, I'm just going to cut off a bit of my head. Here I can be a bit more aggressive with my collimation. Once again, Merrill says, make sure you have a little bit of light between the skin and the light. But if you really want, you can collimate tighter. There's no issue with collimating tighter, aside from the risk of clipping anatomy. Right? But collimating tighter is better because it reduces your scatter. And really, right, your frontal sinuses are right here. So frontal sinus is basically right here. And as you can see, this is within our light. Our frontal sinus is inside our light. Right? So no issues. We've got the anatomy that we need. Okay, that is our waters for sinuses. Any questions? Okay. Next, the fun one. LAO, please.
No.
All right, turn your head. All right. Touch, touch, touch. Good. So very slight turn. You do not want a very big oblique. Turn to face me. Touch your ear. This is going to be a fun one. All right. So this is when our mantra, positioning over OID, really needs to take place. So looking at our patients here, it seems like it's going to be very difficult to get our patient into a lateral while keeping the head flush against the IR. So is it okay to have a bit of OID right here? Yes, as long as we can get the head into a lateral position. So
What did Miss Dunning say?
let's see.
Carla.
I'm going to slide you back, Colonel. Slide you back. Okay. All right, so I think that'll be about correct. Okay, bring your chin down. Chin down. All right, that looks like IOL. Okay, I'm just going to touch your head here. Okay, top of the head away. Good. Okay, and there's our lateral. Lots of OID, but that's the best we can do given our patient.
What do we do? The perpendicular, the IOML?
So IOML here is flat. We have no rotation this way, and our IPL should be flat. Okay.
Yeah, how do you know where this line goes? Just
Great question. So let's talk about centering now. Centering for your sinuses. You look for the outer canthus, and you're gonna go, what was it? How far? Half an inch? Looks half. What is the exact distance? Yeah, half an inch to 1 inch posterior to the outer canthus. So we find our outer canthus and we just go slightly back. Okay. Could maybe come first, just a tiny bit. Yep, right there. And then, right, so we're at the height of our outer canthus, just slightly back. And now we're gonna collimate. And notice when we collimate, what are we trying to do? We're trying to keep the frontal sinus, which is right here. So do we have light on the frontal sinus?
Yeah.
Yes, we do. We are trying to get the maxillary sinus. Maxillary sinus is down here, right above the upper teeth. So do we have the teeth? Do we have the mouth?
Yeah.
So that means we have the maxillary sinuses here. And we also want to get the ethmoid and sphenoid sinuses back here. So we want to get the EAM at the very, very back. Do we have that?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's how you know you have all your anatomy on your image. Frontal, maxillary, ethmoid, sphenoid. Make sense?
Yeah.
You have all the sinuses. And then, of course, wherever you have light, just throw in a marker.
Ethmoid is also like right here, right? And then it goes to here.
What is that?
Ethmoid sinus.
Ethmoid, it's going to
Like-
be a little bit lower.
And the lateral and it's showing like all the way from here to here. And then sphenoid all the way in the temporal, like, I mean, back here.
Okay, then perhaps it is. Perhaps I'm mistaken. You guys have reviewed it more recently than I have. All right, any questions about the lateral? If not, we're gonna go to the really, really fun one.
Oh, that's not fun whenever you say fun.
All right, let me take off that apron first.
Your turn. You got
Okay.
this.
Shit, I got this.
So, this one is called the SMV, the submental vertex.
Oh, never mind. Is it her?
So, remember, this is a projection. SMV is a projection. Projections are always described as how?
Yeah.
How do you describe a projection? A projection is where the central ray,
AP or PA?
how do you know if something's AP or PA?
If it enters the anterior and
Mhm.
exits the posterior,
Right.
or vice versa.
Exactly, so a projection is named based on where the central ray enters and then where it
exits.
leaves. SMV, submental. Where's the mentum? Sub means what?
Underneath.
Below.
Below.
So what's below the mentum? Here. And then vertex. Where's the vertex of the head? So it enters here and it exits here. That is your projection. How on earth do you get a beam to enter here and exit here? By taking the head and doing this. So have a seat, please, Carla.
Mr. Phil, you did this on
Do
purpose.
it again. Do it again.
You got this
At least you're shorter, so
Yeah.
easier.
We see all of you.
Now, based on what I just did, you can already guess this is not a comfortable position for the patient. So you do need to work fast. At least faster than I'm gonna work because I am demonstrating this for you guys. So, okay, sorry, nice. I'll close this one out. Okay. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna have the patient kind of slouch a little bit in this chair. So slouch back, slouch down, slide down. Okay. And actually scoot the chair forward just a tiny bit more, Carla.
Chair forward?
Yep, just a tiny bit more. Good. All right, let's make sure that you're in the middle first before you do anything. Slide towards me a little bit. All right, good. All right, so kind of just slouch down a little bit. Good. I've had your neck. Bring your head back. All right, slouch down a little bit more. Good. That way your neck can come back a little bit further. All right. Very good. So that is how we get our positioning, right? Patient slouches down, head is up, so we enter the bottom of the mentum, we exit the top of the vertex. All right, so real quick, get our rotation, make sure we don't have any tilt. Right there. Okay, positioning. We are now using IOML. So I measure here, make sure that IOML is straight up and down. If the OML is straight up and down, you did not go back far enough. If you're beyond the IOML, you went back too far. IOML should be straight up and down. You can also kind of tell because you should be able to see the tip of the nose. If you don't see the tip of the nose, your head positioning is most likely off. Okay, as far as centering goes, you're going to look for the angle of the mandible right here, where the mandible makes this little thing, and you're going to go right there to the angle of the mandible. This is going to be approximately 3/4 of an inch anterior to the EAM. Here's the EAM, just a little bit in front of the EAM. Right, there's that mandibular angle. Right. You'll notice that we're going to try and get as close to MSP as possible. So I'm just going to slide you back this way a little bit.
What do you
Keep
say?
that touching. Keep that touching. Right. I'm going to try and support the head as much as I can during this time. I've got the ears. I've got the nose. All right. I step back. Hold still. Don't move. Hold your breath. X-ray. That is your SMV.
What did you say about the mandible again?
So you find the angle of the mandible, where the mandible curves up like this, and you put your centering at this height, MSP. So you see how this passes right through the mandible right there.
Oh.
Okay. It's also going to be about 2 inches from the mentum, or 3/4 of an inch from the EAM. Any questions about SMV? All right. And then help your patient back up, right? Don't just ask them to bring your head up like that.
That was fun, huh, Carla?
Okay, so notice how we use the chair, right? We use the back of the chair here to kind of just support them a little bit while their head came back. All right. Any questions? Are we good? All right, thanks, Carla. All right, Angelica. What time is it? How much time do I have?
You got, it's 8:36.
8:36. All right, it's going to be top beat. So, our final positioning is going to be for the mandible.
Final.
Mandible has three things. It has PA axial, and it has the axiolateral oblique.
Good, y'all picked the wrong person.
Oh.
And in fact, you're going to be the perfect person to demonstrate on so that we can see the issues with doing an axiolateral oblique. All right. So,
Need a fan.
positioning for a mandible is actually very familiar. You need to get the OML perpendicular to the IR. What does that sound like?
Caldwell?
Sounds like your Caldwell. What else does it sound like?
Sinus?
Your PA
Oh.
cranial.
PA cranium.
We're not going to put an angle on the tube.
Oh.
So PA mandible is positioned exactly like a PA cranium. Only difference is centering and collimation. So, looks pretty dry now. Come on over, Angelica. Mask off, please, so that we can see those wonderful landmarks. Great. And so forehead and nose touching the IR, please. Good. Okay. So if you look at your notes, what is our new centering? Previously it was the nasion, right? But nasion is too high for a mandible. So what is our new centering? The junction of the lips. right? Because the mouth is basically in the middle of the mandible, right? So we're going right here at the junction of the lips. All right. Back just a tiny, tiny bit. There you go. All right, touch. One mouse looks good. At the height of the lips, very good. MSP looks pretty good. Notice that I'm going on both sides of the patient, right? I want to do a full check to make sure I have everything. All right, come on over just a tiny bit.
That one?
Actually, sorry. I'm just going to turn you. There you go. Okay. As far as collimation goes, what do we need to make sure to get? We want to make sure to get the chin. We want to make sure to get the TMJs. That is the joint here where your jaw meets the head. Right, when you open and close, right? That's the joint that you can feel right here. So the TMJs are like right here in front of the EAM. So you want to make sure you get this as well. And then you can collimate to about an inch within that TMJ. Okay, so you don't need all of this stuff above. You just need to get the TMJ and you need to get the chin. All right, and that is your PA mandible. Any questions?
So we collimate down until here,
Mhm.
and then
Just a little bit above the TMJs.
a little bit above the TMJ.
So if the TMJ is here, I'd probably put the light like right about here.
Oh,
Right? Just give it about like, give it about like
An
an inch. Mhm.
and then this way, we collimate.
Just collimate to like the ear. Right, see, like you got the ear right there. That way you have a bit of space between here and the TMJ again. You really want to make sure to get that TMJ. Because this is for the rami, this long vertical part of the mandible. All right, any questions? Okay, sorry, I forgot to put the shield on you. We'll just pretend
We'll
it's
just
there.
pretend, yeah.
Okay. Marker, right? So if I, my right marker, I would put it here, left marker, same thing, but on the other side. Next up, PA axial mandible. At the very front of the packet, what did we say about the axial mandible?
It's
Is it sitting?
It is the only one where we angle cephalad.
Oh,
So here we have a cephalad angle, 20 to 25. We are going to demonstrate with 25 degrees. So, angle, 25 degrees. Whoops. Okay. What is our exit point this time? Should not be the lips for this one.
Oh, what do we know?
is it the mental?
We're
the
doing
same.
Cranium.
The acanthion. So now we are exiting the acanthion. We're exiting above the lips.
Mm.
Right, so that's going to be right here. All right, so you guys gotta. Come up a tiny bit. And then very careful, I'm going to raise this up a tiny bit. Okay, good. Touch, forehead and nose still touching. Okay, we're keeping that same OML perpendicular, right? Forehead and nose touching. Where's the central ray?
like right now,
Mm-hmm.
like on our shoulders.
The central ray is here. Is this the mandible?
No.
So is the centering correct? It is correct.
Well, because yeah, it's a cephalic. So.
Because we have a crazy cephalic
Yeah.
angle right now, 25 degrees. So you will see the central ray here in between the shoulders, and you will think to yourself, that looks crazy. I don't belong there. I should be up at the head. And then you do this, and then you're going to be in the wrong location. Students do this all the time. So I'm warning you right now. If under axial you are up by the head, you have done it wrong. Even though it looks crazy, you need to be right here in between the shoulders for your axial. Does that make sense? Okay. TMJs are going to be right here.
How do you see here? How do you see here that it's a canticle?
So I can see that the beam is going from here to here. So that's my central ray. And just kind of like draw this over here and make sure that it looks like it's passing through that acanthion.
I can't really see the full line here, but
It's okay. Once you start doing it yourself, you'll be able to see it a bit better, I think.
Are these common positions, or do we even really not?
I have seen mandibles multiple times as a tech. But more commonly now, we just do panorex images. It's the same kind you see at the dentist office where the machine goes around your head.
this is 20 degrees cephalic.
20 or 25 degrees cephalic. Okay. PA axial mandible. Any questions? Key here, enter in between the shoulders. All right. And now for our final one, we have the axial lateral oblique. The problem with the axial lateral oblique is that there are 4 different ways to do it.
Which one's the easiest?
But there's only 2 major ways. Okay, let's say there's 2 major ways to do it. The first way is going to be the one shown in Merrow's, which is where you're imaging either the rami of the mandible, the body of the mandible, or the mentum of the mandible. So if you are imaging the rami of the mandible, you are going to take your patient here, you're going to leave your 25 degree on the tube, and you're going to get that head lateral. So we'll oblique the body just slightly. Turn your head, keep your ear touching the IR. Okay, great. Let's see. Raise your chin up. So this time we're actually going to raise the chin up, try and get the body kind of flat. That way, we're going to try and keep this shoulder from getting in the way of our image. Trying to reduce superimposition. All right, let's see. Turn your head just a little bit towards the left. Not too far. Good. And then take the top of your head and move it away from the IR. Perfect. Great. So that is our positioning for the axial lateral oblique. This is for perfect, the rami, this part of the mandible right here. And we are imaging the side closer. So right now we're looking at the left rami.
So this portion is flat, the body.
And then this central ray enters here at the gonion. Careful. Good. Turn. Head away. Good. What do you notice about the central ray? It's on her shoulder. Okay, so I wanted to try and bring her hands down. Straight down. I'm going to try and pull your shoulder downward.
Yeah.
You're saying good luck to me, aren't you? All right. Not quite working, is it? So, on perhaps a more asthenic patient, you would be able to see the mandible without superimposition from the shoulder. But right now, you see the shadow of the shoulder all over the jaw, correct? So what happens in this situation? You need to adjust the angle and the patient's head at the same time. So we have 25 degrees here, correct? 0 tilt, 25 degrees. We are now going to tilt the patient's head while reducing our angle. So take a look at the notes. What does it say there for axiolateral oblique for your angle?
It says
Where is the
30,
centering?
45.
No, that's rotation. Look above there.
25, tilt head 15 degrees. Angle cephalic 10 degrees.
Very good. So if you can't get it like this, you are instead going to take your angle and drop this down to 10 degrees. So I'm going to drop this all the way down to 100
Where was the centering again?
on the gonion, on the mandibular angle right there. Not as much shorter this time, right? I'm centering right here. I have to come up a little bit higher. But because I have less angle, I need to make up for it by angling the patient's head. So I want you to move very slightly away. Good. And now we're going to take the top of your head and lean it towards the IR. And that is how you get it. Hands out of the pocket still. Pull it down. Right? By pulling this down, right, now we free up this. We can see the chin here. And then we just collimate. We collimate. And that is going to be our mandible. Axiolateral oblique mandible for the rami. Does that make sense? We still have that 25-degree difference. It's just that instead of putting it on the tube, we've now put some of that angle on the head with the tilt. Now, this is for rami. What if we're doing body?
The centering this way, is that fine?
Yep, so we're going to be right here on that gonion.
Okay, this way too?
Yes. So both this way and this way, you're going to be here on the
Okay.
gonion. Now, Carla, earlier you said something about 30 degrees. What was that?
30 degrees for the body. You rotate it towards the arm.
That's right. So here we had our head lateral for the rami. But now we're going to turn the head like this. Keep that chin up. For the body. We're putting the body parallel to the IR, right? We're putting this long part of the mandible parallel to the IR by turning it towards the IR. Okay, you're going to find that going on again. All right, slide back just very slightly. Perfect. All right, that is our axiolateral oblique for the body of the mandible. All we're doing is rotating the patient towards the IR. Does that make sense? You look confused?
I don't get it.
We're putting the body here, this part of the mandible flat to elongate it. Previously the body was like this, so it's going to be foreshortened. By putting it flat, kind of like a ribs, right, we're elongating this close part of the mandible.
So you went more towards the board?
More
or?
towards the board.
Okay.
And if we want to see the tip of the chin, we are going to rotate the head even further. Keep turning. Keep the tilt. Yep, so that's good, but lean your head. There you go. Yep, so move away. There you go, like that. So we still have our tilt, but now we have our 45-degree rotation. Still on the gonion. And this is to view the tip of the chin right here, the mentum. So 45-degree rotation to view the mentum. Remember, the tilt is only there because we have less angle over here. Does that make sense?
So otherwise she can just be straight?
Straight for the rami, or sorry,
Yeah.
as far as tilt, yes.
Oh.
25 degrees angle, no tilt. So for perhaps myself or for John's, we might be able to, you could probably get away with no tilt. Right? For someone that's more broad-shouldered, then you would need to reduce your angle and tilt the patient. All right. And for the final one, we have the axiolateral oblique general survey. All right, you can relax for a bit. On the general survey, we are not going to have a tube angle. Careful, I'm going to drop this down. Instead, on the general survey, we are going 15-15. 15 degrees rotation, 15 degrees tilt. So we're going to start off in a perfect lateral. So turn your head to face me. Yeah, very good. Okay. Actually, turn just a tiny bit this way. Perfect. Oh, not too far. All right. And once we have our perfect lateral, we are going to turn our patient 15 degrees towards the IR, and we're going to tilt the top of the head 15 degrees towards the IR. So turn a little bit to put your cheek more against the IR. Good. And now I want you to push your shoulders away from the IR, bring your head, top of your head closer. There you go. Not too much. Just 15 degrees. Good. Try not to bump your shoulder up either. Right, so just try and do it just with your neck. So watch me, Angelica. So just try and go, no.
This way.
Right, without moving your shoulders too much. And bring the shoulder down, Right, you still want to be able to see your jaw. Good. All right, we're going to center on that gonion one more time. So slide forwards a tiny bit. Not too far. Good, right there. Okay. All right, a little bit more to it. There we go. Okay. And that is our general survey of the mandible. Okay, so we're looking at the entire left side of the mandible here. Looking at rami, body, and mentum. All together. Marker. Right there. Okay, that's axial lateral oblique general survey. 15-15. 15 degrees rotation, 15 degrees tilt. All right, you can relax. Thank you, Angelica. And that is it. We are done with head work. Very good.
That's a lot.
What do you think? So you guys say it's a lot, but I do want to remind you that you have multiple repeated positions. You have 2 Caldwells, which are exactly the same, and the third, which is slightly different. You have 2 PAs, which are exactly the same except for the centering. You have 2 Waters, which are literally exactly the same, except for collimation. You have 4 laterals with the exact same positioning, and the only thing that changes is the centering. Right? So even though it seems like a lot, you are repeating the same thing over and over and over, just with very slight changes each time, and sometimes even no changes. Make sense? Okay. Now, as you saw, these are a little bit finicky. These can be very detailed. So I do recommend you find time to practice outside of lab, right? Whether that be when you're in clinic, like if you're at the hospital and you've got 2 students in the same area and nothing's going on, right? Practice during that time. Or if you're at home and you've got a family member willing to help you out, take them, stick your head against the wall, and just practice your positioning. You don't need a tube to practice putting forehead and nose against the wall and getting that OML flat. You don't need a tube to practice getting that MML up and doing your waters. You don't need a tube to sit your friend down, try and bring their chin down, and practice getting that OML flat 4 times. Right? You don't have a tube to angle, but you can at least position the head.